Oh yes, we're back. All right, Ariel, get going. You're losing subscribers. Today, I make my return to YouTube, not with a fizzle, but with a bang. Today, we're talking about the big kahuna. And by that, I mean the big Purina. Oh God, I've been sitting on that one for a while. So, welcome to Wine and Dine number three? Number three, I believe it is. It's broad daylight. I have a day off today and I owe you guys some content, and this is what we're doing. It is 2 o'clock. Before we get into it, what am I drinking today? But some very, very fancy raspberry liqueur by Tangled Garden. They're delicious. They're also from Wolfville. Okay. So, if you own a dog, or know what a dog is, and also have internet access, you've probably heard about this whole giant grain-free scare. And for going forward, that's what I'm gonna call it, because that's what it is. So essentially what happened is a study was released around this time last year. I'll put links and screenshots and information in here, but a study was released linking grain-free foods to a disease called DCM in dogs. What is DCM? DCM, let's all say it together. Ready? Dilated cardiomyopathy. Dilated cardiomyopathy is essentially an enlarged heart, is the simplest way to phrase it. One is 100% sure on the exact cause of DCM. The current speculation and current available research suggests that it can be passed on genetically. Certain dogs do have a predisposition for DCM, but a variety of different things can trigger it. So essentially what happened was the study was put out about a year ago saying that dogs who are on grain-free diets due to the lack of taurine in the food are developing DCM as a result of taurine deficiency. What's taurine? Taurine is an amino acid that is essential for healthy heart function long-term in cats and dogs. Cats cannot make their own taurine, so you'll see on cat food that, like any cat food, has an added taurine supplement to kind of boost that amino acid to make sure that they're getting enough of what they need. Dogs have the ability to produce their own taurine from the nutrients that they receive. That said, most dog foods do supplement taurine in part as a result of this study, and also just to make sure that the taurine is there and available for them. So basically what happened is the study came out and everybody freaked out. Everyone. It's a scary thing, right? And I don't want to attack dog owners for taking this study so far and being so reactive about it, because we're all just trying to do right by our dogs, and it's very hard when the information that is available to us is not necessarily the truth or unbiased information. And that's basically what happened with this DCM study. Buckle up. Let's just pause the whole DCM thing for a minute. Now that we know what DCM is, let's come over here to the conspiracy side. But no, but yes, but no, but yes. Now that we know what DCM is, how does this play into grain-free food? In 2018, beginning of 2018, Purina tried to buy out a company called Champion. Champion owns the two leading grain-free companies. They own Acana and Origin. Champion declined the offer. Their exact response was that they don't comment on internet speculation when it comes to buyouts and so on, so there's nothing to worry about there. However, Purina got a little bit salted by that. Up until grain-free became popular, Purina had kind of had a little bit of a monopoly on the pet food industry. They own a variety of brands under their whole umbrella at a variety of price points, from grocery store right up into veterinary grade food. Conveniently, within 6 months of Champion rejecting the Purina buyout, this study came out linking DCM to grain-free foods and specifically named Acana and Origin, Champion's brands. Where's the connection there? The study came out of Tufts University, which is proudly paid for, owned, and operated by Purina and Purina's veterinarians. And that is public knowledge. This is not me wearing my dog food tinfoil hat. So the study was not properly controlled. I will link the study below, but essentially it was done in a really short amount of time. The dogs had been on a variety of grain-free foods for varying amounts of time without being thoroughly monitored, and I believe some of them had actually been pre-diagnosed with DCM, but don't quote me on that. And then this study was kind of pushed to the media and to like everyone under the sun to say the only safe foods are our foods. Then everybody freaked out, and so Champion responded by saying that they do have an added taurine supplement in addition to the fact that dogs can create their own taurine, and Purina responded by saying it's not the taurine supplement in the food, it is the way that the taurine supplement is metabolized, which contradicted their original study that suggested that dogs could not produce their own taurine. Essentially a whole bunch of nasty back and forth ensued. Champion presented Purina with actual facts. Purina was like, no. And then we got into this whole BEG thing, which is boutique exotic grain-free foods. So first of all, exotic dog foods is a complete misnomer, because wherever you are locally, wherever you are geographically and regionally, the meats are going to vary. So in Florida, alligator is not an exotic meat to have in dog food. Here in Canada, it would be an exotic meat to have in dog food, but labeling certain species as exotic versus domesticated meats is just completely BS, because it literally just makes no sense. Your dog, when it eats a protein, isn't this isn't biologically appropriate. Your dog doesn't know. And your dog's enzymes don't know. It's the same as transitioning them onto any other meat. They're not gonna be like, this meat tastes like it's from Australia, better hurl. Also, the boutique aspect of that, oh my God. So Purina is like, oh, well, guys, it's not safe to feed boutique food. What is a boutique food? It is a food that is sold by a small company, which Purina is not, and which Purina does not cater to. Of course, they're not gonna be like, oh, well, it's safe to buy your food at a small independent retailer, even though we have no affiliation with them. Yeah, do it. No, of course not. The size of a retail store does not have anything to do with the amount of healthy food that they carry, or the variety of food that they carry, or the ingredients in the food. It was literally the most bullshit call out I have ever seen, and I hate that people have kind of latched onto that and been like, oh, boutique foods. We're not out in the back room cooking your dog's food for you. I promise. I don't have time for that. Oh my God, no. So the FDA gets involved, and they're like, well, shit, this is a real hot mess, isn't it? They release statement after statement every 6 months. We are now on statement number 3 or 4. Can't remember. They just keep releasing statements saying, hey, we're doing a long-term study into taurine, grain-free, and lentils. Because now lentils are getting thrown around, which is hilarious because people are mixing them up with legumes. So someone the other day told me broccoli is a lentil. No, it's not. It's not a lentil. Just because it's not red meat doesn't mean it's a lentil. That's not the only 2 ingredients in your dog's food. Just shh. So the FDA is currently doing a long-term study on the effects of a variety of dog foods on dilated cardiomyopathy and your dog's heart. And if you read the FDA statement, if you read it with your eyes and not your heart, if you read it with the thinking part and not your feelings, you will see that up until now, they have yet to find a link between grain-free foods and dilated cardiomyopathy. No link. Nothing. There's a whole hullabaloo about nothing. Most recent update was the one that really threw everybody. And that was at the start of this month, in July. The FDA was like, okay, well, you guys asked for some transparency, so here's a list of 16 dog foods that have all had DCM reports. I was on vacation when this came out, and I don't appreciate it. Anyway, so basically what happened is they published a list. First, they published their update saying there is no link, we have yet to find a link, and then they're like, but these are all the ones that have had reports. Okay, cool, fine, transparency, I get it. However, to just share that list and know that people aren't gonna read the whole report is probably not wise. It should have had its own separate release, but because what happened is the media and paranoid doodle parents just grabbed it and ran with it, and were like, oh my God, Canada and Origin are at the top of the list. They're gonna be at the top of any list by sheer volume alone, because there's 77 million dogs in North America, and a pretty substantial portion of them are being fed at Canada and Origin. and From and all the other ones on the list. Also, Purina and Royal Canin also had numbers on that list, but you don't see them anywhere. And if you go onto the FDA, you can read all of the individual complaints that were filed to them, which I did, all 500 and some. And there are complaints in there that say that the dog was treated for suspected DCM and not actual diagnosed DCM. Anybody can file a report with the FDA. So what that means is that dog owners and vets are reacting and filing a complaint alleging DCM without necessarily having a confirmed diagnosis or taking other factors into consideration. Grain-free is such a high volume of the pet food market right now. A lot of dogs that are having health issues are going to be on those diets, and that doesn't mean that the diet is the cause. It just means that that's the popular food to be feeding, if that makes sense. What they should be investigating is if reintroducing grain into the diet helps improve the DCM. Purina's whole response to this was they listed a couple of their foods that are grain in and are safe to feed, as did Royal Canin, and we all know how I feel about them. My issue with this, my issue with Purina as a whole really, is the same issue that I have with Royal Canin. And it's that they market their food as superior, and then you read it and it's absolute garbage. It's so bad. So don't be sitting there over on like Captain Purina Mountain telling me that it's not safe to have lentils and peas in a dog food when like the second ingredient on half their food is brewer's yeast. Okay? It's just not. It's not good. We should not be using human byproduct, like human ingredient byproduct, not human byproduct. Again, please don't feed your dogs human meat. I really hate that I have to keep saying this, but just don't do it. Not that anybody is. Oh God, how do we end up on this rabbit hole every time? Anyway, my whole point here is that if you look at the ingredients on Purina's recipes, they are absolutely worse than the brands that they're currently seeking to kill, which is literally everything that is not under the Purina umbrella of brands. If your first ingredients are byproduct and byproduct meal, that's a whole lot of cooking that happens to your meat before it gets put in the kibble to be cooked again, and the more times you cook food, the more nutrients get lost in that process. So if you have like 6 pounds of not only byproduct, which has already been cooked and processed a bunch of times, but byproduct meal put together, put in a kibble, put in an oven again, that's a very, very low nutritional value, and that's why you see such lengthy ingredient lists on Purina and Royal Canin, is because they then have to add so much additional supplementation and formulation to compensate for the lack of nutrition in the one kind of meat that they put in their food, that it's just redundant. Like, why even bother? Oh my gosh, like just use some healthier food. Also, the fact that when Purina lists chicken byproduct meal on their bags, or even just straight chicken byproduct, they literally put in brackets next to it an excellent source of like omegas and glucosamine or whatever. They literally feel the need to have to clarify what is in byproduct that makes it edible, because so many people know that byproduct is questionable. And the fact that people look at that and they're like, oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, if they look at it, let's be real here. Is just like mind-boggling to me, because if that was any other company, like if Acana was doing that, people would be like, see, this is why they're being investigated by the FDA. Not only that, but Champion has been fully complacent with the FDA investigation, has issued multiple statements saying that they are participating in ongoing studies, and again, it's been over a year and there's still no link. They have not found anything. So all of these news articles that you see floating around are purely inflammatory, and it sucks. It sucks for you guys because it's a really scary time to be shopping for dog kibble. Whole point is for you guys to be able to find something that works for your dog and yourself. You want to trust your food, and you want to know what's going into your dog is healthy and safe and sustainable for you. I've had a number of people ask me if switching to raw is the safest option right now, just because there's so much back and forth about the grain-free and grain-in debate. Sure, if you can get your dog on raw and it's sustainable for you long-term financially, if you can transition your dog and your wallet to raw food, good for you. Do it. Do it up. Big fan of raw. I love it. That said, it's not an option for a lot of people, and nobody should be made to feel guilty because they can't afford to feed raw to their dog. Kibble is not intended to be a lesser version of raw. It's intended to give you options. The whole point of having so many different brands and so many different flavors and proteins and formulas is so that you have choice. And I hate that Purina is trying to take those choices away from people, because I have customers who have had their dogs on the same grain-free food for 10 years who are now going through really messy, horrible transitions that are really hard on their dog's GI tract because they read an article and panicked. And it's so unfair. So if you're kind of caught up in this whole DCM grain-free hot mess, please don't feel guilty or overwhelmed thinking that you've been feeding your dog poison, because you haven't been feeding your dog poison. There are always going to be health issues from our animals that we can and can't prevent, and the best thing that's going to come out of this attempted takedown by Purina is that more research is being done. And it's going to take a long time, because that's how long truthful research takes. But we are going to learn more about DCM and how it can be prevented in the future. So up to this point, there haven't been any recalls. There haven't been any warnings. There's no reason to panic. None of the formulas have been changed. Everybody is still good to go. If it's any consolation, I feed all of my animals, all my carnivorous animals anyway, grain-free foods. My cat and my dog are both on grain-free, and both of them are thriving. If you're kind of caught in the middle and not sure what to do, my advice to you is to do some research. Go to the brand websites and read the ingredients. Don't go onto forums. For the love of God, don't go onto dog food Reddit, because I'm like 90% sure that the two admins on there are legit working for Purina, because anytime anybody brings anything up about this, they are so quick to shut it down. And then I straight up posted on there, like linking some articles saying not to panic about grain-free, and got banned. So don't go on dog free Reddit, because again, it's not unbiased information. Look on the bags, read the ingredients. Because for as much as companies want to push their product on you, they also need to list their ingredients that are in their food. So if you can look at the nutritional breakdowns and look at the ingredients, that is going to be the best place to start. As far as grain in and grain free goes, I think we're probably somewhere in the middle. I think having a kibble like Purina or like Royal Canin that is almost entirely comprised of grains or grain byproduct with very minimal actual meat, I think that's really unhealthy. Just like us eating entirely carbs or overly processed sugars is really unhealthy. And I think that for some dogs, grain-free works really well. And I know other dogs who have a really hard time on grain-free. Dogs that have a harder time on grain-free, it's usually because of the elevated meat content. So a lot of them, if they are gonna struggle with it, they'll get a little bit like constipated just from the extra protein and whatnot. That's where I would say to start, is doing your own research. You can talk to your vet, but as I've said in previous videos, vets are often contracted either by Purina or Royal Canin, depending on which one they sell in their office, to push that food. So they're not going to be, a lot of the time, completely honest with you. If you can, try and find a really knowledgeable pet store or pet food store. I know that's a tricky one for a lot of people, but it's not, I don't think a little bit of grain is gonna kill your dog, and I don't think that grain-free is the only way to go. I just don't think that grain should be the primary source of all of your dog's nutrition. It's about finding something that works for you, that you trust, and that you can afford long-term, because there's no point in transitioning your dog onto a food that you're not going to be able to sustain, especially something like raw that is a totally different ball game. It's up to you to do your research. And when you see studies like this come out, look and see where they're coming from. Look and see where those vets work. Look and see what their position is on dog nutrition, because everybody has an opinion on dog nutrition. It's definitely a rabbit hole, but it's not your fault. Everybody's just trying to do best by their dog, and everybody's just trying to give their dog the best possible life. It's a pretty safe time to be shopping for pet food, because it's such a hot topic right now that I think companies are being very careful about what they put in their foods. Companies right now are trying to hold themselves accountable because they know that people are starting to read and pay attention to what they're feeding their animals. You need to check your sources, because things on the internet spread quickly, regardless of how true they are or how unbiased they are. And when you have a campus, or when you have a company like Purina that's been the capital of this industry for so long and has so many resources, they're going to have a lot more ammunition to work in their favor than some of the smaller companies that are newer on the market. It makes it tricky for you, but I will just say to try and stay level-headed. Like, you know your dog, and you know what they do well on, and you know what they don't do well on. And this is not intended to be a jab at anyone who has lost a dog to DCM. It's a really horrible thing to lose an animal. my best advice is to not let that emotion run away with you, because the information that is out there isn't always necessarily unbiased and true, but you do have options. I've been sitting on this one for a while, guys. I really have. And part of that is because it's such a hot issue right now. I didn't want to get involved until I felt it was necessary, and then after this most recent update, that's kind of where I'm at. That said, I also have to give this spiel a million times a day at work, so if this wasn't the like drunken tirade you were expecting, it's because I have it pretty much memorized at this point. But the short version, if you made it this far now, I will reward you with the short version, is there is no evidence linking DCM to grain-free diets. Please don't panic. Please do your own research, because the only person that's going to be unbiased towards your own dog is you, not a company that owns its own veterinary hospital. Not a company that makes dog food and owns its own veterinary campus. Quick housekeeping notes before I get off of here. Coming up on my channel in the next few weeks, I do have, also, can we just look at my Hogwarts 3D puzzle castle, because it's amazing. It's taken me months. It's still not done, but it's getting there. Right now, like, the ceiling is collapsing. Reminds me of Notre Dame. Too soon? Maybe, but I don't care. Coming up on my channel in the next few weeks, months, whenever I get a minute, is I do have a budgie care guide filmed and half edited. It ended up being quite a mouthful, so I might refilm it and try to make it a little bit more accessible, because right now it's literally just me being like, blah, 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 which, let's be honest, all my videos are that. It's fine. That is happening. I have footage from the Toronto Zoo, which I will try and make my next upload, actually, because it's really, really cool. We got super close to a bunch of animals. It was amazing. So that's kind of where we're going with this channel. I am back. I don't know when my next upload will be. Hopefully I'll get back on a weekly schedule soon, but I promise nothing. But hopefully soon. I've missed being on YouTube. I miss talking to all you guys on here and on Twitter. Thank you for sticking this out with me, and I will be back to uploading regular content very, very soon. Should we go see the birds? Let's go see the birds. All right, another beautiful day in Canada. Oh, it's not a beautiful day in Canada. All right, here's the fam. Here's Cusco. Wow, that is quite a display there, sir. He's a little bit anxious. I haven't been home as much lately, so he's been a little bit distressed about that. But then up top here, who I'm gonna try not to disturb, we have Indy, who's still very shy, still won't really let me get near him, but I've been feeding the others a lot of millet from my hand lately, and he's started to get pretty interested in that. There's Chip. I just opened the door of the aviary, so he's probably thinking about coming out. And then way in the back there, we have Miss Kita, who has not been formally introduced on my channel yet, but she is the star of my budgie care guide and budgie taming video that I have in the works. So you guys will get a really formal introduction to her shortly. But she is my newest addition. I got her shortly after Nala passed away. The others were really looking for her, so I thought adding a new bird as soon as it was for me. Chip just came out and like hit me in the face. But yeah, I thought that adding a new bird might be helpful to them, just where it's been such a rough time. And it was. Chip had a really nasty sinus infection. He was breathing quite hard, but he is good to go now. He actually just came out, so I'll go find him, but he is feeling much better and just about back to his normal self. Having an extra bird around, bringing Kita in and having an extra bird around really perked him up quite a bit.